is episode 10. We have a new face on the podcast. Go for it. Zach.
I'll do that. I'll actually do that. I'll introduce Zach for all of you. So Zach is one of my favorite shooter. Well, we shot a couple times together, and then all I can say is he's very disciplined production shooter, and yeah, he's a pretty good shooter. And you get sponsored by a gun company, right?
HK. He doesn't want to bring it up.
Okay. Want to say where you're from?
Yeah, I'm another one of those Boise retards that's been on the show lately. We're kind of in a majority right now, it looks like, judging by the three of us.
Yeah,
there's not much to tell. I just really like shooting. And
oh, we lost.
We lost somebody?
Yeah. So you're a production masterclass shooter, right?
So I've been told.
All right.
Yeah. I think we made M at a pretty similar time, and you're obviously better than I am now, but still have fun with it.
Sounds great. Kenny, you want to introduce the topic?
Sure. Yeah. I thought that we could do dry fire versus live fire, and what translates well and what doesn't translate well, or if you've ever found that they didn't coexist well with something that you were practicing, like whether you were practicing one thing. Maybe that's a vague topic, but what translates well and what doesn't translate well between dry fire and live fire, and good decisions to make between the two of them.
So that live fire means match/live fire practice as well?
Either one. Yeah, actually shooting a gun versus pew-pewing.
Okay. I can talk about it first.
Sure.
Well, I've been only dry firing, a year and a half. I started it 2014 October, and I started shooting from July. But so the first year, the full year, until last nationals, I had a huge gap between dry fire and live fire, and then I figured that out after I finished my first nationals. And before and after, the difference was I can train at home in dry fire and go to the range, and then I'll still get a benefit if I do it right now. But before nationals, I wouldn't have the benefit I had from dry fire. I can't do it the same at the range with live gun. If I give you an example, I could nail .7 draw and under a second reload, things like that, no problem with a timer in dry fire. But when I go to the range, I cannot do it consistently, and most of the time in dry fire, I will think that my draw is accurate because I'm confirming all the side pictures in .7 seconds or 1 second, whatever the time limit is. But when I go to the live fire or a match, I cannot do it the same. Maybe I could do it twice out of 10 trial. But so I could not do it, but now I can do it. It was because at nationals I realized that I was not consistent shooter, but I was really fast. I could do really fast draw, really fast running, and fast splits like anybody else, like national champion. I could have done like there was actually a couple stages that I did faster than national champion, but I couldn't do it consistently. And then after that, my mindset was changed to bring dry fire and make live fire, dry fire, or match mindset the same. Before, my mindset was totally different about dry fire and live fire in a match. My mindset was in dry fire, I make the time limit. If it's .2 part time on my part timer, then my goal is to hit 7.7 seconds, not hitting a shot or not doing it consistently. My goal was merely speed, and my live fire was just different than dry fire, and also my match was different than dry fire. So after nationals, my mindset was focusing on making dry fire, live fire, and a match all the same mindset, or all the same training as well. If I am focusing on the front side in live fire, I'm gonna focus on the front side in dry fire, something like that. So if I'm focusing 0.7 part-time in dry fire, I will have to focus on 0.7 part-time on everything, including match. But focusing on not focusing on part-time released my barrier in between live fire and dry fire.
Basically, you
I have a
were
question.
then. Oh, go ahead.
So one thing I always disagreed with Juani a little bit on this. So, but my question still is, if you do that, how do you ever get faster?
So,
Oh, that's okay. Is that,
interject
So
really
like
quickly on that.
there isn't a quantitative way to measure that, right?
yeah.
That, I
But
mean,
not being able to measure it and it not happening are two different things.
Yeah, so I've experienced some of that. Like as with most of you guys, I've chased the whole, half second, 0.6 draws and sub-second reloads in dry fire and all that. I stopped doing that actually kind of the end of last year, and I haven't done that specifically this year at all. The reason for that is I was chasing the time, which is good. I think you have to chase time at some point. You don't learn to go fast unless you go fast, basically. However, that can only be a small part. I've seen a lot of, for lack of a better word, dry fire heroes that can just nail those 0.6 draws on a par time. I know their sight picture's not there. So you have to get both. Like you've really got to, yes, work on the speed, but you've got to confirm your sight picture's there and be honest with yourself. And that's where I see a lot of people kind of falling by the wayside.
Yeah, that was my problem too.
Yeah, and I kind of noticed that, like, with the matches we shot together and all that, like, you are clearly faster than I am. You're more efficient in your movement. Your gun handling's faster than mine.
I can't even imagine that.
It's true. It really is. Like, watch us both, and he's faster at basically everything.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen you a lot, and I haven't seen Juani, so I can't even picture that. That just blows my mind.
The issue, though, is I think at that point in time, Onsaith was basically, for lack of a better word, going balls to the wall in dry fire and just pushing speed. And that's good. He learned speed. But he would have won Oregon State, except there were some discipline issues. Like I may be putting words in your mouth there, Onsaith, but you were on track to win it, and then you had a couple breakdowns in attention and focus. I kind of, like, the consistency wasn't quite there. The discipline wasn't there, and I think from what I've seen lately, that I think you've kind of found that a lot better now. Do you think that that's changed from dry fire to live fire and shooting matches now?
Yeah, the change. I am much more disciplined and consistent comparing to last year. Was because I was training to be consistent.
Yeah.
And the outcome was making all my training and match the same mindset and same training and same goal. And basically, my downside was I was trying to make time in dry fire and then shoot well in match. And that's different mindset. So it didn't work well. Because I've never practiced to shoot well or to win a match. My practice was just trying to make this short segment, let's say draw segment, really fast, and reloading segment really fast. I didn't practice to connect everything, and my mindset wasn't connecting everything, but rather to this super fast and that super fast. So my skill was not connected. It was just everywhere.
So, are you guys saying don't have a separate match mode and a practice mode? Just practice at your match mode?
No,
or?
I do that. I disagree.
No. I'm not trying to say which is better. I'm trying to understand what Juani and Zach are saying. Or are you saying that that's what you guys do? your practice mode is the same as your match mode?
Now, yes. I feel right now, like especially last week and the week before, I had one of the first match of this year, and then I didn't feel difference between dry fire and at the match.
Okay.
Last year, I had huge difference when I went to the match. Pressure was different, and my mindset was different, and my skill, match performance was different. But now it's connected. I would say it's like almost same as I do at home in the dry
Nice.
fire or match.
Because the other school of thought is you practice really hard and fast at practice, and then at the match you dial it back a little bit. So that's the other school of thought, right?
How do you learn to control your throttle?
No, I'm not saying that that's a better way. I'm just saying that's the other school of thought, right? Like what Wyatt says he does.
I don't back down. I don't back down when I go to a match. I don't do 100% in dry fire and 80% in match. I don't do that.
I don't back it down. Like, I'm not saying that I'm going to shoot at 90%. Like, you guys have seen me shoot. I just practice really, really fast, and I'm practicing the same kind of things you guys are doing. I just split it up in different modes. It's what Steve Anderson talks about. And then when I go to shoot a match, I just shoot. I don't think about any faster speed. I just watch the front sight. So I'm quantitatively controlling the time in dry fire and live fire practice, and then I'm just shooting. I can't really explain it other than that. I'm just kind of watching the front sight, letting it do its thing.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good skill. I think that a lot of people don't learn that skill without making conscious effort to do so. I can tell you a lot of guys that just go full bore in practice, dry fire, live fire, whatever, will crash and burn at matches, like all the time, because they haven't learned to free themselves from that time element and just shoot.
What about you, Kenny?
What I know is what my best runs feel like with live fire, be it a practice session live fire or a match, and they feel perfect. Like, they feel like I reacted to the buzzer immediately, have a great grip on the gun, and I'm seeing my front sight track where it's supposed to be the whole time. So that's what I practice in dry fire, because that's the experience that I want to have when the gun's actually going off. I like to react to a start beep. I don't like there to be a par-time end beep, because then the goal switches from having these sensations of the gun feeling right in my hand and seeing the sights where I need them to, and the sensation of where my trigger finger is on the trigger, to get this shit done before that beep happens. Because when there's a stop beep, that's the goal, right? I mean, I'm a goal-oriented guy.
Yeah.
Dangle a carrot in front of me, and I will go for it. And that's the carrot. When there's a stop beep, it's to beat that. Like, there was that dry fire chat, that 3-second whatever LPres dry fire challenge. I could do it if I didn't see anything. If I didn't see anything and I gave it 20 tries to nail that reload, I could do it. But that's so insane compared to how you're actually going to shoot a match. It doesn't work that way.
There would be no value in me doing that personally, like none.
Really?
20 tries.
No.
Oh,
Well,
I did it at my. We were at a hotel for the Dixie Cup, and I did it like my warm up before the match, and it was watch my sights and everything, and it was just I don't know. Andrew still with me though.
How many no shoots or mics did you shoot at Dixie Cup? Just curious.
Dude, it was a tough match. I shot 2 mics.
That's pretty good.
2 mics and 1 no shoot, I think. That was.
Yeah, I browsed through the scores and it looked like nobody got away clean out of that match.
Brian, unnamed last name. I think he shot like 6. It was a tough match. I don't know if anyone cleaned it. Like, I think Crow even pulled a few mics. But sorry, Kenny. That was. Yeah.
Very good. I mean, I just know what works for me. So we've done this every time. Like, I'm sticking to it because I know it works well for me. I see incremental but consistent improvement when I forget par times. And my goal in dry fire is to just get better at all of these things, but to be striving for the same end result as if I was actually shooting a gun, which is seeing the sights, having a good grip on the gun, and making reloads a non-issue, basically. Like, they don't have to be smoking fast, they just always have to get in the gun. you know, because the reload is just it's just the dead time. So like the less dead time, the better. But not like I'm not going to push so hard to risk there being like, oh, I dropped a mag or fumbled it, so now I have 3 times as much because I was trying to shave 2/10. Like just shoot more alphas,
Yeah.
Yeah. Me personally, I'm trying to shed some speed for consistency. I mean, everybody here that has shot with me knows I can shoot fast, but they also know it doesn't work out well for me. And so I put the shot timer down. Every once in a while, I'll do some of those exhibition type things like the 3-second L pres. I know there's no real skill going to be, no real skill is going to come from that. However, it's just a nice break every now and then just to do something stupid fast, just to kind of change it up. But right now, like I said, I'm not using the shot timer. I'm just trying to get some consistency, and I'm trying to dry fire as realistically as I can. Like, I'm not trying to do standing reloads. Every time I do a reload, I want to at least take 1 step. And I'm kind of concerned that I don't know how I'm going to get my speed along with that, but I'm hoping it's just going to come through repetition once I get that stuff dialed back in. So
a question for you, Eric. Along with that, like, you certainly took to dry fire a lot, kind of last season. My big question is, how have you noticed that affect your match performance? Like, you can hang with most people when it comes to the raw dry fire skills and whatever. Like, you can probably do an El Perez and dry fire faster than me, but I think we both know that I will probably win the match. So where does that? What's the lost in translation for you?
Being honest with certain things, and that's a big part of why I've decided to take a break from the part-timer, because like you said with that 3-second El Pres, to do something like that, you're not being as honest with your sights as you would in a match. And so my biggest issue is being honest. I've recently discovered that I've been absolutely dishonest with my grip, so I could make part times or I could make this or that, and that really showed out in the real match environment. Just my grip was so sloppy. I was kind of getting away with it with a metal 9, millimeter, but and that's kind of why I shot some single stack 40 for a while. It was just a reminder that I couldn't get away with that. So, sorry, Kenny, I'm going back to production.
Oh no!
No, but I think that brings up a good question as far as how do you see improvements in matches from dry fire best? Does that make sense? So is it higher repetitions? Is it lower repetitions of more focused things? Or is it more... Because I think we had a question on one of our videos on that type of thing as far as what the best way is to increase your match performance through dry fire specifically, right?
It's cool. You're probably going to get 5 different answers if you went down the line.
Yeah,
Totally.
which is going to be awesome. So that's why I was thinking. Yeah. You want to start, Kenny?
Sure. When I am doing the most productive dry fire, it is so mentally draining that I can't do it for more than like 20 or 30 minutes. Like, imagine that you had a stage, like the focus that you put into a stage. What's the longest stages we shoot? Like 30 seconds. Is a long stage with a bunch of run and a bunch of arrays and stuff. Staying in that focus of a mindset for 30 minutes at a time is bonkers. But that is, for me, the most productive dry fire, when it's like, okay, I'm tense. You try and relax, but you're tense, right? Because you're waiting for the beep to start, and you know what you're going to do. And then when the beep happens, it's go to the gun really hard, staring at the front sight as hard as you can, because I don't really practice. Probably nobody does, maybe people do, but I don't dry fire any hosing type stuff because that's really instinctual. If you have a 2-yard, 3-yard target, you're just going to point the gun out there and pull the trigger. So I practice on relatively hard targets. So it's get a great grip on the gun, you're watching the front sight really hard. As you're pulling the trigger, you're making sure that there's no big wiggles or anything like that. When it comes time to nail a reload, all of my attention snaps to the magwell, and I'm staring at it until I know, not just to the point like the Burkett reload when it's all the way, like almost in the gun, all the way in the gun, and then push back out, and then pick the front sight back up again. And it's, for me, like I can't get good results from dry firing in the lazy mode, that, not lazy, but in the like casual observer mode that Steve Anderson talks about, where it's just like, this is kind of boring, I'm just going through the motions, and like he feels like he has the most productive dry fire sessions in that mindset. I don't. I have the most productive dry fire sessions when it's like I'm mentally exhausted after 20 minutes because I've been focusing so hard on what's going on, because that's how I want to shoot. I want to shoot when the buzzer goes off. I want to be conscious of my grip and conscious of the sights and conscious of the mag well and conscious of my movement and breaking the shot the millisecond, the soonest I can, that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, and that 20 minute is a kind of the magic time frame for me too. Anything after 20 minutes, I just physically get too fatigued and mentally drained to have quality dry fire. 20 minutes like increments is what I have to do it in.
This sounds really good, Kenny. I agree with a lot of points you said. And also, I mentioned about my dry fire being changed after nationals. And I'm not I think Zach mentioned about being born gifted shooter or something later.
No, I just said you were faster than me.
Yeah. So I'm not a born athlete. I've never did any sports until now, and my eyesight sucks. But my strength,
you don't have any thumbs, right?
Yeah, my left thumb. I blew up my left thumb, but it was lost and found. But my strength is nerdiness. I study a lot. I'm a true nerd of the sport. So I have ton of videos, ton of interviews and stuff. And after I started researching how I can change my dry fire training and all training for shooting, there was interesting comments about how this group of people like Steve Anderson, right, who does dry fire, like being dumb, doing drills over and over. And there was this kind of group of people, I think Candace said random block or something like that, people who doesn't do repetitive stuff. And Eric Graffel is one of them. Eric Graffel said he never does drills because that thing builds up in his brain. So I changed my dry fire training with no drills. So I don't ever do drills, actually. I don't remember last time I did it, but I never do drills anymore. And what that gave me was, before, I knew where the target was, and I knew where the sight's going to be. So I was just doing autopilot mode. But after I randomize my training all the time, and I usually mix up targets. Sometimes it's 8 targets, sometimes it's 10 targets with steel, and I mess up with engagement sequence too. So I am consciously looking at the A zone and then looking at the sight and then pulling the trigger. But before, when I was just doing drills over and over, I would just confirm the sight and then pull it without confirming A zone first, or the target hitting zone, the specific space I want to hit on. So what my problem, one of the biggest my problem at nationals or before nationals, was shooting partial targets. I would shoot a lot of
really heavy on that, didn't you?
Yeah, I shot. There was weird other penalties too, but I got total of 11 penalties at nationals. And then
you still beat me.
So my problem was making drill like a program. So when I actually face some, unexperienced target or unexperienced stage, I will mess up pretty hard. So I randomize everything, and I don't do drills anymore, except in live fire. All the drill I do is dot drill, and other things I mix up all the time. So in that manner, I could actually develop my reaction skill when I shoot a new type of stage. Because USPSA, everything is pretty new. They don't really copy or do the same stage did last year. They don't do that. So when I actually go to a match, what I practice at home in dry fire is shooting a new stuff, new stages. So I am now better at shooting new stages. So when I go to a match, that mindset, looking at the alpha zone first, and then looking at the side and then igniting. But before nationals, I would just like look at the side. So I have so many 2 Charlies on the left side, or I would shoot it faster than I should, or I will not see the point of hitting zone. So right now, my difference is that in my dry fire, I look at alpha zone and then look at the side, or the point of hitting and then look at the side.
Yeah.
I don't. Some people like Wyatt maybe don't need it. Maybe you don't need it because you may be doing that already, but I wasn't doing it. I didn't have that thing, so I analyzed myself, and then I just had to adapt myself to a new training.
Yeah, what you're describing is actually training yourself to see faster, and there's a pretty significant body of work between random practice versus block practice and how it actually can speed things up if you have a certain amount of random practice. But anyway, I think Wyatt had a question for you on that one.
Did you watch that most recent J.J. Racaza Periscope with Eric Graffel?
Yeah.
Where he said that him and Eric only practice drills? Did you see that?
Well, when they say drills,
I mean, I'm sure that it's not like a standard drill. They probably are coming up with their own drill, right?
Their drill is not a 2 targets and shooting the 2 target over and over. When they say drill, what they meant is shooting only the A zone.
No, because they said specifically, they were like, yeah, don't ever do 20 target stuff for drills.
Then I don't know what you're saying.
Oh, okay. I don't even know what I'm saying sometimes, so, that's how that is. Sorry, I just had a question.
I'd like to follow up really quick on that training yourself to see part. Oh, go ahead,
Kenny.
Are you the lone dry fire that is pushing, just trying to wreck par times, and then at the match just see sights?
We'll talk about that when I get to it. Zach, you can talk. You're good. We'll talk about that when
So I really liked part of what Wansuk was saying. The subtext there is that when he was randomizing and moving targets around and all that, he was training himself to see the targets faster instead of simply having basically an expected array that you're repeating the same motions on every time. And I think that has been valuable for me as well. Yes, I do drills and dry fire and all that, but I move stuff around all the time, so I get used to programming it in, but then looking for it and just driving my eyes to that thing. I think that's been really helpful in terms of shooting stages. I think I'm pretty strong when it comes to transitions between targets on whatever fill-in-the-blank stage, in part because of that. I'm used to looking for it and just driving to it. So, Kenny, you're going to say something, I think.
Oh no, yeah, that was it. I was asking, it sounds like everybody else has kind of gone away from that. I mean, because if you think about it, there's in this world there are 2 proponents. I mean, like maybe if you're just a podcast guy that scream from the rooftops that you should dry fire in this certain way, and that it has worked really well for them. So it's very easy to just adopt that way, and that doesn't mean that it's bad. It's probably not bad. It just was bad for me. So it's interesting for me because I thought I was the weird one. That was like, man, that didn't work.
Well, I think that at the end of the day, does it really matter? That's kind of what I have to question. I honestly would have to wonder if it matters if you ever use a part-timer, if you never use a part-timer, or if you use it part of the time.
I think it's going to be individual dependent.
Yep.
Like, there is no one perfect way to get good at this game.
It depends on what you're trying to improve.
Yeah. I just work without a timer sometimes. Sometimes I'm really hard on the part-time.
I want to be faster, more accurate, and I want to be better. It's like, well, that's too broad. Like, literally, what are you trying to improve? Are you trying to become, because you can't work on all of it all of the time.
Yeah.
So like, I actually think what I'm trying to improve is consistency and discipline, but I'm convinced that also that with the repetition, even without a timer, I will still get faster because of pure repetition.
So
So
I
the way,
actually have a thought on that that translates into the match performance that we were kind of talking about. I I basically didn't dry fire over the winter. I needed a break from shooting and didn't even touch a gun except for the one I carry. I kicked it back up shortly before my first match, and I recently transferred to an HK from a CZ, and there's a pretty significant difference in how I shoot it and hold it, and how I reload it. I mean, it's a trigger guard magazine release for one thing. Um, I didn't learn to reload that on the timer, if that makes sense. I had to back off the timer, put it aside, and just practice the reps. Perfect repetitions over and over again until it was pretty consistent. Once I had a baseline, then I could start introducing the timer and get to kind of where I was with the CZ. But if I get sloppy with it, as I did actually a couple matches ago, trying to beat the time, I have to back off and put the timer out of the equation.
Sure.
And I change my dry fire up, what I'm working on, based on how my match went. The latest match that I shot informs my practice. You know, if I'm weak on reloads, like I bobbled a couple reloads, I'm going to be primarily drilling on that. If I didn't shoot enough points, hard front sight focus on tons of reduced size targets and dry fire, that kind of thing. I had a DQ related to my first DQ and last related to the Trigger Guard magazine release. I'd been cheating the timer, and if you do it wrong, you can actually have an ND while reloading with an HK. I found that out a fun way. But anyway, I had to change how I reloaded based on that. Like the DQ, I've spent like 2 weeks drilling it.
Yeah.
So I didn't do it.
Yeah, and honestly, luckily it was just a local match. You got
Yeah,
to
it would
learn.
have been a big bummer if it was like Area 2, which I'm not going to, or Nationals or whatever.
Eric, come on, baby.
What?
Come on. Have you talked about this yet?
As far as well, I mean, like I said, I've just started regimental, dry fire. I've been screwing around. I've been changing divisions. I've been shooting single stack. It's cold in Idaho, and I don't want to shoot seriously while it's cold. And so I've been having fun with single stack, and now I'm back to production. So we'll see what happens. I'm actually going to shoot 2 matches this weekend. I'm going to shoot Jerome on Saturday, and I'm going to shoot the Napa match on Sunday. And I've been working on some grip stuff, and like Zach says, matches are for validation, and I'm going to see what's going to happen this weekend. If what I have been doing has been helping my grip, but I haven't had the time to live fire to find out yet. So.
Did you hear that, Kenny? Eric just said single stack isn't serious.
I haven't been shooting it. Kenny's going to come kick my ass shooting 8 rounds.
Dude, I'm gonna borrow somebody's Glock 17 and a Phobos holster and come beat you in prod. I won't beat Zach, but
Hey, I've got a spare HK you can run.
man, I don't want a DQ on a reload.
Oh!
Sorry.
Hey, in Zach's defense, the very next match, he came back and beat all of us the entire match.
In Zach's
Open shooters.
I can
Open
tell
shooters limited.
by his first 6 rounds of that match he was probably going to beat me, but it didn't happen. But he stomped everybody the next match.
Yes,
Had
he
a
did.
very good match.
Oh, here he
Get
goes.
lucky
He's blushing.
sometimes.
I'm just ready for him to stop setting up 30-round all-steel stages when you're an 8-round major
I
guy.
know, right?
That-
And I'm
That-
like, well, that'll put me 5% behind even if I do it well.
That was not a single stack 8-round friendly
Why
match.
want to touch on the topic? Right there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, you want to touch on the topic?
Oh yeah. So I dry fire differently than all you guys. So I'm kind of like Juani a little bit, but I don't want to say I'm like any one person because we're all our own person. So I'm very nerdy, but I break our sport into components. So everything we do in our sport is repeatable. It's random, yes, but there's certain aspects that are the same or similar every time. So like position entry, you always will have to have a position entry in the match somewhere, or a few position entries, or a lot of them, or position exits as far as like leaving while you're shooting or entering while you're shooting, or a hard exit and a hard entry, or shooting on the move hard, or shooting on the move easy, or does that make sense? So you can break it up into different components. And so what I do is I break those components into components. So it's like a sub-level of each component, and I dry fire par times on those. So if I'm really focused on how to enter a position, sorry, what was that?
They're just micro drills, yeah.
Yeah, essentially micro drills of that. So if I want to work on entering a position, I'm not going to set up a drill to shoot like 12 targets and then leave and then shoot 12 more targets and shoot it twice. I'm going to just focus on shooting 2 shots on the first target while I'm entering and making sure my feet are where they want to be. Does that make sense? So like just to learn where my feet need to go for dry fire or live fire.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing a lot of reps on a lot of perfect repetitions on very small portions of it. And then I combine them all and I kind of get what I want. And so I can incorporate, Steve Anderson calls it speed mode, match mode, and accuracy mode. But when I was down in St. George, it was kind of crazy because I was asking this guy, I'm like, well, how do you train? And he goes, well, first thing you want to do is set up a drill, and I want you to draw and shoot that fucker as fast as you can. Like a 60 draw, 10 transitions, like get an alpha mic, delta mic, Charlie mic. He's like, you're pulling mics on everything. And he's like, and then you stop. And then you shoot the whole thing like you wouldn't a match. And I was like, there's other people that think like me. This is awesome. Normally everyone doesn't think like me, so it was pretty cool. But that's how I've settled on training. That feels best for me. That's where I learn the best, and I feel like I get the most gains from that type of an aspect. So
I don't think most of us would disagree with that specifically. I can tell you that I work speed, and I do so by setting a more or less impossible time limit on something and just pushing to it. Like hits at that point they don't matter nearly as much as time. Like you have to make the time, but that's only part of the drill.
Yeah.
I have to find the speed, yes, but once I find the speed, now I have to figure out how to make hits in that time.
Yeah, and that's the consistency aspect of it. It's not like I'm not practicing consistency, but I'm just, I wouldn't want to say I'm focused more on speed, but I guess I'm balancing them out more. Does that make sense? So like the way I've never trained with Juani. I'm hoping to soon. We'll see. But I imagine, at least from what I've talked to him about it, that his whole goal is to not really focus on the timer. It's more to just focus on building that consistency the whole time, if I understand it right.
For right now, yes.
So my goal is like maybe I'll do 10 consistency reps of a certain thing, like in a row to make sure that I'm consistently doing it. If I can't do 10, then I wouldn't. So like a reload drill that I was telling Eric a while back was I'll do a drill where I reload the gun 10 times without an issue. And if I can't do that, then I start back at 1. So even if I get to 9 and I flub the reload even a little bit, like anything goes wrong, if my grip on the mag's wrong, anything, I start back over and I do 10 again. So I'm still practicing consistency. I'm just working at a lot of different things. And that might be just due to time, because I don't know how long you guys all dry fire, but I'm doing like almost 2 hours a day. So it's like... So I mean, like I have time to do both of those things. If that kind of, you follow me with that.
Yeah, and actually, you asked me about how I can be faster and work on my speed when I'm only focusing on consistency. So when I hear all your training and what your dry fire training is like, I've done the things that you told about. Increasing your speed and speed mode and stuff. I've actually done it. I've done it before I shot nationals. So for me, I know how fast I can go. I know how fast, no matter what consistency it is, I know how fast I can reload, and I know how fast I can run or drop. And I found out my limit, and I cannot do 0.5 draw no matter what. Yeah. But I can do 0.7 inconsistently. So my goal was just try to find out what's my human limit. And I actually did. I did for most of things, with transition, whatever it is. So I don't work on them anymore because I personally think I cannot make myself faster than the limit I found already. And I'm not planning to break that limit because breaking that limit will cost me too much time and too much money, and I don't have. But right now, how I can work on my speed is so I don't check my human limit anymore, but I watch other people shooting, world champions, national champions, and fast guys. I
And fast guys. That's the last category.
They are not the same thing.
Okay, consistently fast guys like Eric Rafael and Ben Steger, JJ Akaza, those guys. I watch consistently. I probably can say I watch every day. I dry fire almost every day, but I watch videos every day because there's so much fun. It's like watching a YouTube video or a computer game.
Think
So
something long enough, someone will say it.
By watching them shooting, I can know how fast I can split, or how fast I should split in order to be at their level, and how fast I should run. So I can observe their speed, and then I define my speed comparing to their speed. Because guys like Eric Raffel, he shoots every day. He spends a lot of time and a lot of money into shooting, but he does something I can't do. So I'm gonna reference him for setting up my speed. Makes sense?
I kind of think like this. So coming from, I think this analogy gets used a lot. Golf. I used to play golf, and I got fairly good. But so you could do the same thing, right? You could be like, okay, so I want to learn to hit the ball as far as I can. Don't care where it goes. I just want to hit it as far as I can. Or you could say, I'm going to reel back on everything. I'm only going to hit like 3/4 shots, and I just want them to go dead straight, right? But when you're on the course, you don't actually do either of those. You try and find the balance between the two. You want to hit the ball almost as far as you can. I mean, technically, of course you want to hit it as far as you can, but you know that realistically, if you actually swing with 100% of your strength, you have no control over it. So what you're trying to find is, how do I hit the ball as far as I can within the confines of also keeping it in play? So I think what's interesting is, if you practice in 3 modes, right? Speed mode, accuracy mode, match mode. If speed mode is, how fast can I physically go? I know that, same thing as Juani, I know that for myself I can do like 0.9 reloads, and I can do 0.6 draws to nothing. If it's like a draw to just don't shoot myself, right? So, but that doesn't really translate to what we do. I know how accurately I can shoot. I can stand, there's no USPSA target that I can't hit first time if I give it its due amount of respect. I have not seen a target yet that I thought was hard enough that I couldn't hit if I would have the discipline to just let the sights be still and pull the trigger the way it's supposed to be pulled. So I've already, like, you get to the point where it's like, okay, like I am as fast as anybody needs to be if all I care about is my speed, and I'm as accurate as anybody could ever need to be if all you were to care about is just accuracy. But that's not the game we play. The game we play is points divided by time. So what you need to figure out is, how do I best score as many points in the least amount of time that is possible? And I feel like the way that Juani thinks about it is exactly the way that I think about it. It's like, once you know how fast you can go, now you shift your focus off of that, off of just the speed, and then you turn that focus into looking for those same cues in dry fire that you're looking for in live fire, and then through repetition, you will be able to achieve those same cues faster. Probably never, realistically, the same speed that you could if you didn't care about those cues at all. I think realistically we can all say that, like, nobody will get to the point where, if their body will physically, be able to pull a 0.6 draw, that after 50 years of crazy practice, I bet they still couldn't do 0.6 draws to 25-yard steel 10 out of 10. It just won't happen. Your body won't let you do it. It won't happen.
There were some salient arms operators on Instagram. They were doing it all the time. I couldn't believe it. Like,
crazy. It's crazy. It was the same. It was like this 3-second loop that just went over and over and over again.
Yeah, I was like, I couldn't believe how many times they did it in a row. It was like
Every time the sun setting in the background, it was like, we're going to try it again. And the sun, it's been an hour and a half. Boom, I got it again. Yeah. Yeah, so that's my thought.
No, I mean, and that's a big point. You know, like when we were playing with the Mozambique over the weekend.
Right.
But, you know, I would never, ever try and shoot a match at any kind of, you know, anything close to that kind of speed. That was just kind of, exhibition fun stuff.
Well, here's a short example. When we set up, and this was for Eric and I, we went out and practiced the other day, and we set up a simple drill for, there was like 2 close paper and a steel at maybe 20 yards, 10-inch or 12-inch round steel, and 2 full-size targets at like 4 or 5 yards. They were very close. And I was like, okay, so let's figure out what's the fastest way to do it. Do you go to steel first and then paper, paper? Do you go paper, paper, and then steel? The steel was in the middle, by the way. Or do you just go left to right? And now I don't want you to don't take this as like offensively, but my times were very, very, very close between all 3 of those ways. Like, but I think I did one in like 2.3, and one was 2.5, and one was 2.6. Between 3 different ways of doing it, and I knew which way would be the fastest for me, and I was right, which was straight left to right. And then when you did it, Eric, your fastest time was faster than mine.
Yep.
by like 0.1, but your other 2 times were bad because I make a point to practice consistency to where I want to be able to go out and perform as close as possible to my highest performance level, but every single time, or as close as every single time. Nobody does everything every single time, but so maybe that is a product of how you have been practicing or how you haven't been practicing versus how other people practice.
Well, that's actually what I've been doing as of late. What you said, Zach's pretty much said the same exact words to me. And that's my focus right now, is trying to get some consistency and forgetting about the rest. You know what I mean? Who cares if I can lay down 1 blazing run out of 3? I need to lay down 3 decent runs.
Yeah, I mean, in a 6-stage match, you know what they call the guy that wins 1 stage and loses every other one?
the loser.
D-class. D-class.
The loser. I mean, unless you've got one guy that wrecks every stage, if you can get top 3 or 4 on every stage, you will probably win or be very close to winning.
There's a local guy around here, always will come up to me and be like, I was like 1 second away from winning a stage, and I'm like,
Cool.
yeah, cool. Anyways.
Yeah, by the way, I know there's one guy who can shoot .5 draw and hit steel at what, 10 yard or something consistently. He's a Japanese guy. He started airsoft and he's amazing. But I don't want to do that. I never want to do that. I never want to focus on one thing at a time.
Yeah, that's the guy that practices with airsoft, right?
Yeah, that's Muniki.
Yeah, because he can't have a real gun.
Not Muniki. Muniki can do that.
Maybe. I don't know. I didn't see him shooting .5, but his friend can.
Yeah, there's a guy that, he can't have a real gun in Japan, so he practices with airsoft and gets his gun when he comes to the matches.
But his gun is right above his crouch.
Yeah. Crotch drop, bro.
If only
more tactical. And I think we should probably end it at that.
All right, dudes. Good talking with you.
See you guys.
All right, see you later.
See ya.